Everyone. So I was going to do a little check-in today, give you some updates of where we are, because this is really the last week of new content. Next week we have our exam. We've got a full review day, so I'm going to show you some of the things I've got set up for that, and just make sure you're making the progress you need to, so that you'll be ready for that exam a week from Thursday, right? Any questions as we're going forward? Yes, sir. You got it. In fact, it's available now. Has been available, but we'll go ahead and it's the one from last semester, but you'll see it's pretty involved. So what they're doing is they're rewriting the test, but they base it off of the current study guide. So let's get there right away. Um, so we're in this first exam content. We have, well, let me pull up the calendar first. So notice I have made a slight change in that uh, I moved the 3.7 from next week into this week, so that just gives us two lessons to get through each day. Today these two are kind of connected. The composition, basically, we'll do it forward and backwards. I'll show you a couple techniques that kind of show you the nuts and bolts, the techniques for getting it done. You'll still want to kind of go through the lessons to get some of the conceptual parts, but this is one that some people can have some difficulties with, but I'm going to show you a technique that has helped a lot of the students I've worked with to just get it right. Okay, but you've got to take that one step. If you don't take that one step, if I don't take that one step, I mess it up. So I'm going to show you that one step. We'll go through. Next Tuesday, we'll have a full review over all of basically using the review sheet, which I'm going to show you next. So there is a study guide. It's got like 40 questions. What I will do is I will also narrow it down to really focus on these. And when I say that what is that code for? This kind of question is going to be on the test, okay? And if you ask me a question, there's a few in there that are kind of, they're deep and they take time. Those are not good test questions, and a lot of times they're not on the test. They do want you to learn it. I'll also identify those. Okay, so if someone says, I'm really struggling with this one, I say, oh, don't worry about it. That's code for it's not on the test. So now you know all the codes. Okay. So we'll make sure that by the time we get to the test, and again, this is being recorded too, so I'll post this for those who aren't here, or for, so you can review again. Did he really say that? Yes, he did. So we've got it. So next is I want to show you that there's this exam one preparation. So it's actually, I'll stay this way. This part you don't see the second because I'll turn it on when we get to getting ready for the second exam. Now, I'll also tell you, as we get a little closer, the thing is, last semester, 3.7, that some of the classes got a little bit behind. They weren't able to do it, so it wasn't on the test. If it's not on the test, I'll let you know. It is a little bit involved, but if you follow what I'm doing today with the composition, that's really 3.7 really builds off of that. So you'll be ready for it, whether it's on the next test or whether it's on test 2. Okay, but I'll update you and I'll let you know one of those two. So there's two PDFs, one with the answer key and one with the questions. So you can download this or just screen it. What you're going to want to start doing is going back, and you'll see that these questions are similar to the ones that you've worked. In fact, we're going to work on this one today. This is from 2.4 or whatever we're working on today. Is it 3.4? Are we 2.4 or 3.4? Does anyone know? I have to look back at the schedule to 3.4. Okay. So yeah, this 3.4, it's called a composition. So we're going to do this today. There's some of these questions about the change in Y, the change of X. You'll see they're worded just much like the homework. The exams will be worded much like the homework. So that's the key part, is getting through the homework and then coming back here, because the test itself will also be on paper. I'll pass it out to you. The test will be 21 questions, all multiple choice. So you'll have 5 answers. These are not all, I don't think, they might have a few multiple choice in here, but they're not designed that way. They're more open, and they're kind of making sure you understand the concepts, because if there's 2 or 3 different ways to do it, they'll show you this way, but on the test it might be one of those other options. Okay, so you want to, as you go through this, you want to say, hey, I saw a couple different options of this question, especially if I say that's the kind that's going to be on the test. You'll want to go back and review all those different types. And so we'll work a few of these, but notice this has multiple parts, so it's much like the explorations. But again, if you've gone through the homework, none of this should be surprising. It should be very similar, but it will help you get through it. And again, it is long, so that's why I wanted to, kind of move things up this week, finish up the last few things. But you can start, the things you recognize, maybe start working through some of these. Certainly over next weekend, the best thing is if you can do as much of this as you can, then that makes our review on Tuesday helpful, because we know what questions we have and those kind of things. So there's I think there was a picture like this, but there's circles in here. There's one with the box problem with the cutouts. So we did that last week in the homework. There's an advanced version of the box problem where you're just putting a box in the corner. So just an extension. Again, this one gets a little complicated, but if you kind of understand it and where everything comes from, it'll really help you with that one. And then, like I said, there's this one that we've seen where you've got 2 vectors, and again, they tell you it's to scale, so you can see this is the red one's either going to be 2 or maybe 3 times. It's not going to be 2.4. You can't do that. It's either going to be 1, 2, or 3 times the length. So, but again, it shows you what potentially could be on the test. This also was, again, directly from the homework. So you'll see that gives you a good proportion. You may recognize this from the homework. Okay, so it's set up, but it's a little different. We don't have the stuff we can click on in the computer, but we're able to, on paper and pencil, answer these questions. Again, on the exam, you'll be given a question and then 5 answers. 4 of them are wrong, 1 of them's correct. You just choose the right one. You don't have to show your work. Although if you do, then we can, because occasionally some people they'll write the right answer, but then they circle the wrong one for some reason. If you put that evidence there, we can go back and, I want to score you as accurately as possible. So showing work is helpful. Incidentally, part of the reason I have to rewrite the exams is we're not supposed to pass back the whole exam. I'll pass back your answer sheet. If you want to see the questions that went with it, let me know. We can do it during class time or during office hours, but they don't want them going back. Unfortunately, it wasn't me, at least I don't think it was me, passed them back last time, and so they feel they need to write new questions, which is a little, but that's, neither here nor there. I would prefer to be able to pass them back each time, because you learn a lot from looking at them. So just let you know, you still can come look at them. I'll put them here, and that's a good reason to come to class. I'll let you look through it. Just get it back to me by the end. Don't take any pictures. Don't, but do learn from it. Okay, so it's a long one, 50 questions. Again, we're going to do 21 on the test, but again, they're multiple choice, so there'll be enough time. Any questions about? Yes, sir. It is here in person, so definitely be here. Plan to that date, that Thursday, plan to be here. If something comes up, contact me. We can do makeup tests. Usually they will make an extra one for that. It's twice as hard. No, it's a different test though. So if you're able to be here, be here. Emergency comes up, we understand those. Is it what? next Thursday. So not this Thursday, but next Thursday. Yes. Question? No, you're okay. So, and it's paper pencil set up and uh, okay, good. So that's that. The answer key, some of the questions it actually like here, it explains some things in detail. Other times it just gives the answer, so you can kind of check whether it's right or wrong. But then sometimes it does actually provide some pretty good explanations. Uh, what I will do over the weekend is hopefully I'll have the test by then, but uh, I'll see if I can't do a few of these on a video that I can post so that again there's 50. There's no way we could work 50 questions, and even if we worked, it's probably not going to get through half of them either in one day. But if I make some advanced videos, I can oftentimes answer the questions on certain ones. We can get to the ones that are a little bit problematic that I know might need some back and forth, but some more straightforward ones, I'll go ahead and make those so that if you do have a question on it, you can look, oh, that's how it is. Okay, but also come here, they have, like I said, some pretty good explanations of why the answer is or why it's wrong or something. So that answer key's there. Um, and again, like the last question, answer's probably longer than the question, but they do explain. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. So let's go back here. Let me get into student mode to make sure that all of that's actually available to you. Because sometimes I have something turned off, and when I look in teacher mode, there we go. Yeah, it's still there. Okay. So today we are doing, or we're scheduled to do 3-4 and 3-5. Again, you could be at wherever you're at. Remember, you've got late passes, so you can anything. And I've got the late passes set so they don't penalize. I think in the first setting it was. I think I changed those. But if you notice anything, the goal is there are no late penalties. Okay, so if you're getting penalized for something, let me know. Also, please, I sent out an email to maybe 9 people in the class that were not showing up in our rational reasoning. A few of you, and I think we're up to about 8, so it's a common thing, registered for another section because they meet at the same time. So you saw, oh, this is the class meeting time, but the section number was different. It was higher in the list, so you chose that one. So that put you in somebody else's class. So I'm hoping that those other 9 that I sent it, I think I heard back from 3, so maybe we're down to about 6 that I haven't heard from, that you might be in that rational reasoning for that section. It's 18 to 86 or something. So when you go into rational reasoning, if the course says it's 18 something, it's a 5-digit number instead of 20 something, we are 20 something. Up here it says it. Let's see, we are, well, it doesn't say down. Anyway, up there it's supposed to say if it's full or 20 something. So, because there's 2 classes that meet at this early time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Make sure, what I did find is those I got switched over the weekend, unfortunately doesn't carry forward your progress. So what we're going to need to do is you're going to then need to let me know where you're at. If you're in that situation, it's best if you could take a screenshot of where you're at so you remember, and then we'll move you forward. I'll get you points. The goal is for you to learn, right? It's not about doing homework and getting things done. It's about learn. I mean, it is in a way, but hopefully by doing that, you're learning. And again, this course is, as with all the math courses at ASU, it's heavily weighted towards a test. Like 70% of the grade has to be from the test. Some of the higher level classes, 80 to 90% of the grade is just from the tests. So some people say, well, why should I do the homework? Because you'll learn as you go through it. So it's all this process, but what they're measuring is just the end product, okay? Or mostly the end product. Okay, so let me, How are we doing on time? Good. That's only 15 minutes. Ask maybe another 15 minutes of your time. I'll show you a technique that helped me to deal with functions, which actually takes us back last week. We started getting into functions. So we're going to start with that. We're going to come in to see how, if we follow this sort of process that seems like an extra step that most people don't do, that you might be able to skip in the future if you once you sort of start training your mind for what we're doing with functions, then that's fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's go with blue, is I'm going to start with a couple functions. See how this comes out. Um, okay, so with a function we're given two functions there, f of x and g of x. So the letters are just the name of the function, so it helps us differentiate them. So if I ask you, the question asks, what is f of 1? How do we do that? What is that asking? I mean, it's not much there, but what is it asking us to do? Which of the x's? All of the x's. So what I'm going to ask you to do first is take this, because this is going to build on things. What the function is not 2x squared. It's really 2 parentheses squared. Okay, so this is the idea is that because x is, you look at x, it doesn't look like you would plug stuff into it, right? But an open parentheses looks like, hey, you need to put something in there. So what I do is I just do this symbol change, because as we get to the next step, it really does make it easier. So now at this step, you're going to just plug in the 1. But if you take this thing down and say, okay, everywhere there's a parentheses. Let me take this out. I'm going to use color as well. So the input is 1, so everywhere there's an open thing. So all I've done is change x, the symbol of x, into the symbol of an open parentheses. Seems like maybe overkill, but I tell you what, once you start doing this, you'll see the next step, it makes it all fall to place, because you know exactly where to put everything. Because in the next step, sometimes they'll plug it in for one of the x's, but not the other. But this says, hey, that needs something there, right? So we do it, and then we can calculate it. 1 squared is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 1 is 3. Notice why I choose 1. Does anyone know my 2 favorite numbers in the whole world? 1 is one of them. 0 is the other. I love doing math with 1s and 0s. I'm pretty sharp at that. The other numbers, they mess me up, but I can do that. And then it's 2 minus 3 is negative 1 plus 4. See, I slow down. 4 plus negative 1 is 3, right? So this would be our answer. So f of 1, there we are. Okay, so that's functions. That was kind of last week where you were asked to plug in. Some of the stuff today, in today's lessons, you'll be asked to do the same thing. Okay, plug in a particular number. You can do this. But the other thing we're going to ask you to do is what's called composition of functions. Didn't work. Okay. Composition. So that would be something like f of g of x. Now, what's that asking us to do? Okay, so everywhere, it's just like here, we plugged in 1. This is really the same thing, but it's saying now we got something bigger to put in there, right? This is where you'll really benefit by putting these open parentheses. And actually kind of come over here, what's g of x? Oh, it's kind of big. I'm going to give myself some space. And it's going to be a lot easier to plug in. And here's the thing is, there is, psychologically, there is a big problem here. What's the big problem? You're plugging in for x, but what does g of x have? It's got another x. So is this x and that x the same x? Remember, x is really just a variable that marks the spot. It actually could be different variables. They're different functions, right? What a composition is like a factory that makes something. The composition is they go to another factory that makes something else and they put it into this factory. So we're making cars, but we don't know, our car factory doesn't know how to make steering wheels, or we just don't want to. We get some other factory that makes some nice steering wheels. We put them into our car. So that's a composition. This factory is giving us an input of something that we're going to make. So that's the kind of thing here, is they could be very different things. But X is marking a spot where an input goes. So the way we do this, again, to think through this, is I'm going to rewrite this in color so we can kind of see the two pieces. Let's go back and forth. So g of x is getting plugged into f of x. Again, the first thing I want to do is f of x is what I would call the outside function, sort of like the hungry function if you want, because it's going to eat the other function. So you make the stomach. F of x, we come here, is 2, big parentheses, squared, minus 3, big parentheses, which is x, right? It's the same thing, plus 4. Okay. And again, if you do that, where do we put g of x? Into the open spaces. Isn't that psychologically easier to do than putting something with an x into something that has an x? Yes. And I won't mess up now because I'm not trying to say here which of these x's, because again, what happens is we put in maybe for one of the x's, maybe that x, maybe we don't put the plus 4. But now we've got a nice template, right? It's just say, and again, if you can switch colors. In fact, one of the things I did when I got to college level math, I bought one of those 3-color pens back in the day. That was 40 years ago. I'm getting old. But it had a blue, a green, actually it was a 4-color, green, blue, red, and black. And that's what I did. And I see some of you will do that with highlighters, and you'll use different colors. It works for some of us. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. But you'll see. And what do we put in here? The whole function of g of x. But now it's psychologically not a problem. We don't have an x going in for an x. We just have this function, 4x minus 5 over 2x plus 1. Now that's going to be a mess to try to square, but we're just going to leave it as is. And 4x minus 5 over 2x plus 1. Okay. That's it. Now, yes, you would square this one. We would distribute the 3 if we need to simplify it. But in this class, a lot of times what we're looking at is the function. We could put that in our calculator just as it is and do a graph. And then we can solve for the various things we need. So I'm not sure in the rational reasoning what kind of answer they're going to accept. It's been, because I forget from time to time. But you should be able to leave it like this. On the exam, if they get, and they're not going to be as complicated. I chose one that was pretty complicated because I wanted to illustrate that if you have 2 x's, you've got to plug in for each of them. And then I'm also going to do the reverse. I'm going to do it because order is important here, right? This is G going into F. If I write it the other way, is it going to be exactly the same? No, it's not commutative. Okay, so let's give myself a little room. And this time, I'll do it without the color just so you can kind of see it, but I'll do it the same way. G of f of x. This time, G is the outside function. It's the one that's going to eat the other function if you want. So I have to rewrite G and change every x to a nice big parentheses. That's all I got to do. So that's always the first step is rewrite G. Instead of writing X, put a nice big parentheses, and you see that f of X is kind of long, so make enough space. Let's see, G of X, it's 4X minus 5. And I find it even when I put that parentheses, I even call it X, 4X minus 5. It matches, right? And in the denominator, what are we going to have? 2X plus 1. Okay, so just a different symbol. What goes into those open parentheses? The whole f function, okay, the whole thing. But now, psychologically, it's okay because I've got something that has x's in it, but I'm putting it in an open space, right? And that's a big deal. It really is. Now, some of you, you'll get through it and you see it, but I'll tell you, putting an x in for an x, that causes some of us a lot of issues. I'm one of those. So then I just put in my 2x squared minus 3x. Oops. It's 3x plus 4, 2x minus 3x plus 4. Let's see if sometimes if I walk away and come back. No, it gets confusing because your mind is saying, wait, this x is the same x, and it doesn't make sense. How can I take two simple steps? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to give you the rest of today to work on things.